It all starts with several people waking up confused and with a headache in a strange place. Our protagonist then wakes up to a lot of noise and wonders what's going on. As he opens his eyes, he finds himself in a giant white room with several other people. With that, the young man panics, not understanding the situation at all. He looks around and thinks he's been kidnapped, or that maybe he's just dreaming. Suddenly, a strong headache hits him with full force, making him squirm. Then he remembers something important that happened, a mysterious letter he received. The story shows us his past. His name is Xiao Lin, and he graduated from school. Before getting a real job, he made a living by leveling up accounts in online games. And it seems the guy was really good at it, scoring several victories. After finishing the job, he stretches tiredly in his messy room. After that, the boy goes to relax a bit, eating and scrolling on his phone. On the device, he sees a photo of his old family, who didn't seem very happy. His father used to call him useless, so he decided to live alone to prove his worth. But the young man didn't expect something very strange to happen right after. A delivery person shows up with a mysterious letter 2 days after his move. Upon opening the package, a dark and strange energy begins to pour out from inside it. This same energy completely envelopes him, and he gets totally scared by it. The letter was an admission notice from Dawn Academy, and he was about to be teleported. After the teleportation, the letter disintegrates, leaving only a dark object on the floor. And now, back in the present, he understands that the letter forced him to come to this place. At that moment, a voice asks if he has finally woken up from his faint. A tough-looking man complains that he was out for more than 3 hours. The other people are also desperate and threaten to call the authorities. But the mysterious man doesn't seem the least bit worried about the threats. Instead, he just grips the hilt of his sword with a very cold look. Then he releases a powerful purple aura that ends up scaring everyone there. Under the pressure of the energy, everyone in the place is completely frozen with fear. The instructor then yells for everyone to be quiet. Immediately, he complains that every group of newbies always has some fool who makes a scene. The guy seems pretty annoyed with the situation and the noisy newcomers. Looking at our protagonist, he says he'll be brief since someone woke up late. He introduces himself as Kyunchuan, the counselor for Class 7 of Dawn Academy. The man says that here they can obtain power, wealth, authority, and even immortality. Kyunchuan falls silent for a moment, observing the reaction of all the newbies. Then he tells everyone to take out their IDs for a potential assessment. Each person steps into a machine that seems to analyze their stats as if it were a game. After a moment, the first person's analysis is finally complete. The result was 24 points, and the instructor calls him a weak rookie. The next one gets 32 points and happily celebrates his decent result. Kyunchuan complains that the newbies are average and that he'll talk to the principal about it. When it's our protagonist's turn, he steps onto the platform for his assessment. The boy notices that his test is taking almost a minute, while the others took seconds. The instructor looks at him with a smile, thinking something special is about to happen. The screen finally shows that the test is complete, and the young man feels relieved. But before he can leave, Kyunchuan stops him, wanting to see his data, all curious. The man's eyes are shining with anticipation to see the test result. But the result is terrible, with 2 strength, 2 agility, and 3 constitution. With this, the instructor is shocked to see that the total attributes are only 9 points. He puts his hand on his face and says he's never seen such trash stats in his entire life. The young man then thinks that if he's trash, he should be sent back home right away. Kun Chuan regrets getting his hopes up, thinking he was a gifted student. Then the man turns around and calls him completely useless, leaving him behind. At that, the boy remembers his family and how everyone always called him trash. He thinks that since he was a child, no matter where he went, someone always called him that. The boy wonders if he can't escape that word even in a hole like this. The instructor says that with such low stats, giving him an ID tag is a waste. Then he disdainfully throws the tag in our protagonist's direction. However, the young man manages to catch the tag in mid-air with a very quick and precise move. Angrily, he yells that numbers don't decide his worth, and that he's going to try anyway. Kun Chuan scoffs and says he'll watch reality hit him in the face during the test. A girl then approaches and asks what he meant by a gifted student. He explains that they are the lucky ones born with a silver spoon and the strongest. And as for the rest, he tells them to worry about passing the entrance test first. Then another girl asks what the price is for all the power and wealth. She seems very serious and wants to confirm what they will have to sacrifice in this place. The instructor recognizes her and says she has the highest total attributes in the group. The girl just listens to the explanation and replies that she understands how it all works. Xiao Lin observes the girl and thinks she must be very promising for the instructor to be so polite. Next, Kun Chuan advises that to see their stats, they just need to think, confirm attributes. So, one of the students holds his golden tag and visualizes seeing his stats. Upon seeing his stats, Xiao Lin panics at a warning about deducting lifespan. The other students also panic when they see they have little remaining lifespan. But suddenly our protagonist hears a strange sound coming from the system. A message says that an abnormal fluctuation has been detected and a hidden talent released. The guy is confused and wonders how a piece of trash like him could have a hidden talent. With his head spinning, he can't process the information he just received. Looking to the side, he notices that no one else reacted, and that only he heard the message. The screen shows that the talent's name and grade have no match in the database. The talent increases his learning by 100% and allows him to copy F-rank abilities. The screen explains that he can name his talent and that the copy only works once a week. Thinking of a name, the guy decides to keep things simple and easy to remember. So he decides to call his talent Top Student, and the system begins its evaluation. To his surprise, the final evaluation of his hidden talent is an incredible SS rank. The young man then realizes something very important about his newly discovered ability. He thinks that not even the instructor's assessment could detect his special talent. A smile appears on his face as he thinks that he now possesses an SS rank talent. With this, he believes this ability could be his trump card for survival. Meanwhile, another student despairs over having only 9 years of life left. Losing his patience, the instructor slaps the boy on the head and tells him to use his brain. Kun Chuan confirms that being defeated will deduct from their lifespan, and they will truly be gone. The man explains that lifespan is a resource and can be earned by completing missions. The student who was hit remains confused, not quite understanding the instructor's explanation. He shouts that the academy gives everyone a chance to change their destinies with power. In doing so, he also mentions knowledge, wealth, and lifespan as other rewards. According to the instructor, with enough credits, even immortality can be achieved. The girl with glasses asks if this lifespan rule applies only at the academy. Kun Chuan replies that the law applies all over Earth as long as they are students. And now, with no more talk, the instructor announces that the entrance test will begin. He throws something into the air and yells for everyone to stay exactly where they are without moving. A system message appears, informing them that the teleportation will begin shortly. With that, the countdown starts, and the students become tense, waiting for the test. Our protagonist braces himself for what's to come as the countdown continues. When it reaches 1, they are all enveloped in a light and taken to another unknown place. Alone in the room, the instructor complains that he didn't get any talented students this time. He then laments his bad luck for getting stuck with such a weak batch of newbies. But suddenly, the man starts to let out a very strange and sarcastic laugh out of nowhere. At that moment, another counselor appears and calls him over to talk about the freshman. The newcomer boasts, saying that his class received 2 gifted students. Then he teases Kenchuan, talking about a genius and a rare SS rank talent. Annoyed, the man says that SS rank talents don't even exist in the database. Meanwhile, the students arrive at a goblin nest with a terrible smell. Our hero also catches the stench and covers his nose to avoid getting sick from it. Right after, a system screen pops up in front of the young man, surprising everyone. It displays the mission to escape within 1 hour and 2 optional missions for them. With that, a starter pack with a random weapon is given to each of them. Then a friendly notice informs them that there will be no penalty for being defeated during the test. Upon reading this, the other students celebrate, greatly relieved by this great news. Without wasting any time, the protagonist interacts with the screen to open his starter pack. The guy receives a beginner's staff with a very basic magic attack ability. Upon receiving the staff, he unlocks the mastery and realizes everything works like a game. With a confident look, he starts to think of a strategy to use this system. Then the young man decides to test his new ability and focus his energy at the tip of the staff. He strikes the ground hard, releasing a large amount of magical power all at once. With that, a huge crater forms in the ground, showing the strength of his new power. The guy smiles upon seeing he gained EXP just for using the weapon, but notices the lack of mana. At this, he remembers his SS talent and that he can level up skills twice as fast. However, he suddenly feels a sharp pain, making him grit his teeth in discomfort. The protagonist gets frustrated upon realizing his low mana prevents him from using spells in succession. Another student celebrates leveling up his sword, and Xiao Lin thinks about farming levels right there. But a classmate warns that time is limited precisely to prevent them from farming. The hero realizes that a physical weapon would be better to take advantage of his leveling bonus. At that moment, the girl with glasses approaches and asks if he wants to trade weapons. The young woman explains that spells use mana and that it's likely linked to intelligence. He then says that the sword suits her and that the staff doesn't feel right for him. The guy introduces himself as Xiao Lin and confirms her name is Gu Xiaoyu. The girl then asks directly if he accepts trading weapons with her. With a smile, he hands over the staff and warns her that she'll need good aim. Upon getting the new weapon, the young man feels better and unlocks dagger mastery. The hero thinks that to pass the test, the ideal thing would be to find a teammate. With a smile, the young man invites her to form a team for the test. But a strong guy shows up, wanting to team up with the girl instead of him. The man boasts about his stats, saying they are all over 10 points. Then he calls the protagonist useless, guaranteeing that he is the better choice. The young woman simply ignores him and remains silent, not saying a single word. With this rejection, the other students start laughing at the brute's face. He becomes completely furious for being rejected and ridiculed in front of everyone. The bully then turns his anger towards Xiao Lin and glares at him threateningly. Without warning, he grabs the guy by the shirt collar and lifts him up with great force. The guy calls him trash and says he can't stand looking at someone with such low stats. Our hero replies that it's best to save their strength to complete the mission. Annoyed, the man says he's going to show the boy what real skill is. However, the young man just gives a sarcastic smile, unbothered by the threat. He then warns that the brute won't get the chance to do that right now. Suddenly, a goblin appears from behind the man, ready to pounce. The monster attacks by surprise and scratches the bully's face with its claws. The guy screams in pain and is shocked to have been suddenly attacked by a creature. Without wasting a moment, the goblin leaps towards him again to deliver the final blow, but the man reacts in time and manages to cut the creature down with his sword. After the battle, he takes a deep breath and complains that he was almost taken out by a monster. Furious, the man accuses our hero of letting him get attacked on purpose. But suddenly, he notices several glowing eyes in the darkness of the bushes. With that, a horde of furious goblins emerges from the forest, surrounding everyone there. Frightened, the other students panic completely and start screaming in fear. The darkness is filled with screams as the monsters relentlessly attack the students. One of the girls tries to fight but ends up being easily surrounded by the creatures. The situation becomes chaotic, with several students being injured by the goblins' attacks. One of the monsters manages to strike a student with its sharp claws, injuring him. Our hero blocks an attack and realizes the pain from the hit is completely real. The guy smells the rotten scent of the monsters as a classmate is attacked by one of them. The pain from the wounds is intense, and Gu Xiaoyu prepares to use her magic. As he gets scratched, he feels the touch of the claws and confirms it's not a dream. Seeing the mess, the young man realizes he was naive to think it would be like a game. A student yells upon seeing that the monsters aren't attacking those inside the cave. But our protagonist stops one of his classmates from running desperately to the safe spot. He explains that the cave is a safe place to hide for now. However, a screen shows that the cave's protection will end in just 30 minutes. Holding the dagger, he thinks that he needs to calm down and analyze the situation. The young man becomes determined and decides he can't just stand around waiting to be eliminated. So he starts practicing with his dagger, relentlessly striking the cave wall. With each strike, the guy gains 2 experience points for his weapon mastery. He thinks that with his low stats, he needs to train as much as possible before the protection runs out. With 2 minutes left until the protection ends, panic takes over the students. One of them complains that the mission is impossible because the monsters are too fast. Meanwhile, Gu Xiaoyu remains seated and calm, silently observing everything. The girl with glasses carefully watches the protagonist training with his dagger. The guy is already sweating and out of breath from so much training, but he doesn't stop pushing himself. The girl then says that what he's doing is useless because he won't level up in time. He is impressed by her intelligence and how quickly she calculated everything. Gu Xiaoyu confirms that according to her calculations, it would take an hour to reach level 2. But with a smile, he reveals that thanks to his top student bonus, things are different. Then the guy shows that he's about to reach level 2 in dagger mastery. He thanks her for the warning and asks if she discovered anything while observing the monsters. The girl is surprised that he noticed she was analyzing the creatures. The hero makes a joke about games, but the girl replies that she doesn't play video games. He explains that goblins have vital points in their heart and head to defeat them. However, Gu Xiaoyu interrupts him and says her intelligence stat is 46. Then the girl takes the lead and asks him to be quiet for a moment. The other students are confused as she seems to be concentrating to create a plan. The protagonist is in shock, realizing her stat is 5 times his. The young woman tells everyone to follow her orders if they want to pass the test alive. She orders the strongest guy to be the front line to draw the monsters' attention. And for those with long, range weapons, she tells them to form teams of 3. Then the new group leader turns and looks at Xiao Lin, waiting for an answer. He says he will finish off the wounded monsters to avoid direct confrontations and help out. With the plan set, everyone leaves the cave and prepares for the big battle. The brute charges forward, yelling for the goblins to come at him. The archers take their positions and aim their arrows at the approaching monsters. The creatures advance in a horde, running towards the students to attack. One of the goblins manages to get past the front line and attacks one of the archers. But our hero appears just in time and gets in front of the monster to defend her. With a single blow, he defeats the creature and saves the girl from a direct hit. The girl thanks him, and he advises her to save her energy and only attack to finish them off. Without wasting time, the guy rushes at another goblin and quickly defeats it. He then seizes the chance and manages to eliminate a third monster with ease. And right after that, another creature is taken down by our skilled protagonist. The bully accuses him of stealing his kills and gets annoyed with the guy's luck. But Gu Xiaoyu realizes it's not luck and that he's predicting their movements. With that, the young man finally manages to level up his dagger mastery to level 2. He remembers when he played a virtual reality game for 2 months straight. Suddenly, a system notification pops up in front of our dark-haired hero. He is the first rookie to level up a skill to level 2 and gets a free ability. With this, the guy unlocks a heavy strike that requires 11 strength to use. He is happy with the new skill and that there's only 1 monster left to complete the mission. The young man then spots the last goblin he needed to complete his objective. Without hesitation, he attacks and finishes off the creature, completing the first optional mission. The guy feels relieved and satisfied for finally having completed one of the tasks. But suddenly, the monsters' bodies begin to disappear into particles of light. The brute gets confused and yells, asking what's happening to the bodies. A message says that a boss will be activated because a secret condition has been met. Then, from the depths of the forest, a giant creature emerges, the fearsome Goblin King. The giant monster comes out from the trees and glares at the students with a menacing look. With a terrifying face, the boss seems very annoyed by their presence there. The creature then lets out a powerful roar that creates a large green shockwave. One of the girls covers her ears and complains that the monster's scream is deafening. She is terrified to see the size of the threat they will now have to face. Our hero and Gu Xiaoyu observe the creature and realize the danger of the situation. The Goblin King's health bar appears, showing how strong and tough he is. The boss glares at everyone with its glowing eyes and prepares for combat. The young man notices that all the other smaller goblins have simply vanished. The students panic when they see the monster has more health than them and give up. One of the students tries to run, and the protagonist yells at him not to run off alone. The guy remembers an important characteristic of the goblins in that place. He thinks that the creature's field of vision is very small and limited. However, Their sense of smell and hearing are extremely sharp and sensitive. The Goblin King's ear twitches, showing that it heard the student's noise. The creature then focuses all its attention on the student, who tried to run away. The brute breaks into a cold sweat upon seeing that the boss is going to attack the fleeing boy. The bully then yells for the others not to be afraid and to attack the monster altogether. He charges at the Goblin King with his sword, but the boss just stares back. The monster doesn't even flinch from the blow, and the man's sword barely scratches its skin. The blade then bounces off with a metallic sound, showing the attack was useless. With that, the creature swats him away, making him scream in pain. The bully is taken out in a single hit, and his body dissolves into particles of light. One of the girls panics and screams for everyone to run, because the strongest one is down. Another student also screams in fear upon seeing that the giant monster has targeted him. Without mercy, the creature lifts its foot to crush the paralyzed boy. With a powerful stomp, the Goblin King creates a shock wave that sends everyone flying. One of the female students is thrown by the impact and ends up hitting the ground hard. The girl is terrified as she sees the monster approaching to finish her off with its club, but suddenly, a beam of purple energy strikes the boss's chest with full force. The creature's health bar barely moves, showing the attack didn't do much damage. Xiao gets annoyed for missing the attack and not hitting a weak spot. She thinks she needs to hit the vital points to deal real damage to the monster. According to her original plan, the others would distract the boss while she attacked from a distance. She believed that together they could defeat it, but now the formation was broken. Alone in front of the creature, she realizes her carefully laid plan has failed. The young woman concludes that she was too optimistic as the monster prepares to attack her. However, our hero appears, shouting for her to get out of there and stop being a fool. With the dagger in his hand and his eyes glowing, the guy faces the Goblin King without any fear. The Goblin King focuses its gaze on the young man with pure rage and prepares to attack. The guy manages to dodge the club and stops the blow by stepping on the monster's weapon. With his hand on the ground, he says he was just observing the creature's attack pattern. He then reveals that the boss always attacks the closest target first, and in a direct manner. The guy tells the archer not to panic and to keep her distance to create openings. The girl gets a little nervous about the situation, but agrees to try to follow his plan. After that, he asks Xiao to look for chances to lower the boss's health. At this, the two of them get ready and aim their attacks with full force at the creature. The energy projectiles and arrows hit the monster, causing considerable damage. With the boss distracted, the archer thinks their strategy might actually work. Seeing their success, our hero yells for them to keep up the attacks without stopping at all. However, the giant monster gets furious and lets out a very loud and deafening roar. The creature then clasps its hands together and begins to focus a strange purple energy. With a punch to the ground, it releases a powerful shockwave that destroys everything around it. The young man shouts a warning, but the archer is hit head on and ends up being defeated. After the attack, the Goblin King glares at the two survivors with a very intimidating look. Now only our protagonist and Xiao are left to face the great creature. The young woman then asks him if the two of them alone still have any chance of winning. The guy wants to know how much mana she still has to continue using her spells. The girl with glasses replies that she can fire 2 more energy spheres at most. He says that's enough, but she complains that the monster is too fast to hit. With a confident smile, the young man says that if the boss is fast, then he'll make it stop. Then the system announces that his special ability, Top Student, has been activated. With it, he detects the shockwave ability, which stuns targets for 3 seconds. He thinks about how his talent was useless and how everyone called him trash because of it. But now, the guy says he has finally found his battlefield and copies the skill. With a glint in his eye, the young man shows he finally has a way to fight. He then runs toward the giant monster that's about to use its shockwave. The boy thinks the boss's ability is different from his own, since his requires a weapon. Just then, a system screen appears in front of him, activating his new copied skill. He then slams his dagger into the ground right as the creature was preparing to strike. By doing this, he manages to interrupt the boss's powerful blow before it can hit him. The Goblin King is thrown completely off balance and raged that its attack was stopped. Our hero prepares to continue the fight against the enormous green monster. He then confirms that his plan worked and his line of thinking was correct, but his copied skill has a cooldown and the boss is getting ready to attack again. Seeing her chance, his partner fires a large sphere of energy with all her might. The Goblin King creates an energy sword, but it's too late to defend itself. The girl warns that she only has one more shot and wonders how he pulled that off. The creature then ignores the damage and picks up a giant rock to smash the young man. The cooldown isn't over yet, and he realizes he can't dodge the blow. With a confident smile on his face, the young man decides he won't run from the attack. Instead of dodging, he creates a digital shield to take the direct impact of the rock. His teammate screams in desperation as the monster smashes him with the rock. Amidst the dust, he gets up, saying he's fine as the cooldown continues. The boss gets closer, and he knows he needs to stay near for his shockwave to work. The boy realizes he needs to be right at the monster's center of gravity for the plan to work. With only 3 seconds left, he waits for the right moment to use his skill again. With that, he slams his sword into the ground with all his might, yelling for the boss to stop immediately. His skill activates, and a purple energy shockwave hits the creature head on. Immediately, the young man shouts for Gu Xiaoyu to prepare for her final attack. Without wasting a moment, the girl fires her last and most powerful energy beam at the Goblin King. The blast hits the monster square in the head, and it begins to dissolve into particles. A system message announces that the boss has been defeated, and the optional mission is complete. Exhausted, he finally relaxes as his partner comes over to see if he's okay. Right after, the protagonist collapses to the ground, thinking about the remaining safe zone mission. His companion realizes she won't be able to complete the last task without his help. Elsewhere, several instructors are in a meeting discussing the test results. A man in a suit summarizes the results, reporting how many students placed in each rank. He then reveals that 15 freshmen achieved an S rank evaluation, leaving the others shocked. One of the instructors explains that to get that score, you have to complete all 3 missions. At this, one of them brags that his class had 2 talented students, while another had 2 B rankers. The minister confirms this was the best batch of freshmen the academy has seen in the last 10 years. Meanwhile, the instructor for Class 7 laments not having received any talented students. The chief approaches and says that his class didn't reach the safe zone, but broke 2 records. He explains that the first record was a class having 2 non-talented students with an NS rank evaluation. The minister continues, saying the second record was breaking the highest intelligence stat for a freshman, and at the same time, One from his class also broke the record for the lowest stats in history. He reveals that these two opposing records came from the same students, and this has caught the director's attention. Meanwhile, back with the students, the test ends and everyone is teleported back to the room. A screen shows that he completed all 3 missions and received an S rank evaluation with a lot of points. Looking at his partner, he wonders if she was the one who carried him to the safe zone. Just then, the archer he saved earlier approaches to talk to the young man. The young woman thanks them both for their help, as she wouldn't have gotten an A rank without them. She then expresses regret for being defeated and asks if they managed to beat the Goblin King. With a smile, the young man confirms their victory, and the girl happily celebrates the news. But the brute who was eliminated first shows up looking none too pleased. The man says our hero got lucky because he would have been defeated if he wasn't with Gu Xiaoyu. At that moment, the girl with glasses approaches the two, calling the protagonist's name. She then faces him with a serious expression, as if she wants to say something. Soon after, the two of them step away from the group to have a private conversation. The young man thanks her for the mission, but she says it was for their mutual benefit. The young woman admits that without him interrupting the boss, she wouldn't have been able to land the final blow. Hearing this, he thinks about how his partner is very intelligent and calculating in her actions. She then says she'll keep his secret, as she knows he shouldn't have been able to pull that off. With a smile on his face, the protagonist thanks her for her discretion and understanding. Next, the young woman says she discovered a communication function on their badges, so they can add each other. She then teaches him how to use the system, telling him to say the name, Smart Brain. With that, they both activate their ID panels, so they can connect with each other. The screen shows his stats, and the young woman asks for his student number to add him. Soon after, a friend request notification from Gu Xiaoyu appears on his digital screen. The young man accepts the request, and the system confirms it was successful. Meanwhile, the instructor yells for everyone who got an F rank evaluation to go to the entrance. He tells the rest of the group to use their maps and head to the academy's central courtyard. The man notices the protagonist and his partner are still standing there without moving, so he calls Gu Xiaoyu over for a little chat, and she agrees to go. Alone, the young man opens the map on his device to find the way to the courtyard. He wonders if the instructor called her over because of her S rank, or if he noticed something else. Arriving at the location, he sees that many other students are already gathering in the huge field. The young man thinks that the disappearance of so many people must have caused a huge commotion. His partner returns and asks if he's okay, and the young man replies that the instructor didn't say anything important. Suddenly, someone starts shouting from the middle of the crowd, telling everyone to make way. Another voice orders them to stay in their class formations and not to bunch up. A blue-haired boy appears on a platform, looking out at the assembled new students. With a smile, he introduces himself as the Academy's Student Council president. He announces that the director is running late and that he will be welcoming everyone for now. Suddenly, a powerful roar echoes across the field, startling our hero. All the students are completely shocked and confused, not understanding what's happening. Looking up at the sky, they see a huge, terrifying purple dragon flying above their heads. The young man is in a state of shock, realizing that the creature is a real dragon. The beast lets out another, even louder roar, its eyes glowing with an intense purple light. At this, the protagonist is paralyzed with fear, feeling like his body can't move. His partner is also frozen in place, feeling an instinctual fear of the creature. The dragon then lands on the field, and a man with long white hair climbs down from its back. He apologizes for the commotion, saying he was taking care of some business on the way. A screen reveals that this man is the director of Dawn Academy, and he seems to be late. The council president jokes that his entrance ceremony was a bit grandiose. Angrily, the director yells at the young man, saying he wasn't trying to show off for everyone. He explains that he was in a hurry and had to use the dragon to travel faster. Our hero realizes this is the director, the only person who can see his hidden talent. The white-haired man says he saw the test results and the freshmen are very good. Right after, the director's eyes seem to fixate on someone in the middle of the crowd. The protagonist feels the director's piercing gaze directly on him, growing tense. With his staff, the director casts an amplification spell so everyone can hear him. He says he knows many were invited in a strange manner and must be unhappy. With that, he points to the Minister of Admissions and tells them to take their complaints to his department. The council president complains that he's going to create a rule for admissions to be held during the day, but the director gets serious and says he will answer the two biggest questions the new students have. With a powerful purple aura, he reveals that everyone there are colonizers from the old world. He explains that this place is Planet Norma, also known as the New World. Therefore, Dawn Academy's goal is to train pioneers to conquer the new territory. The white-haired man shouts that everyone's normal life ended at that moment. From that day on, they could become generals who command legions and expand territories, or perhaps great mages who explore the truth and control the laws of nature, and with luck, some could even become leaders who make the rules in the new land. Strength, knowledge, power, and eternal life are some of the treasures they could obtain. Then the director announces he is going to implement a new rule for all the freshmen. He says that the top 3 freshmen in the exams will be able to enter the new world early. With a threatening look, the director glares at the council president to shut him up. The blue-haired boy gets scared and apologizes, saying he spoke out of turn. The older man then ends the meeting, dismissing all the students from the courtyard. Our hero thinks about the president's reaction and decides to use the academy's resources to get stronger. Suddenly, a voice calls his name, Xiao Lin, asking him to wait a moment. It was Instructor Qin, and the young man turns to ask what he wanted with him. The instructor explains that the student with the best score becomes the class monitor, but Gu Xiaoyu gave up the position. With that, he points to the young man and says that by default, the monitor position is now his. The instructor advises that the position will be up for re-election in 3 months, and a screen names him the acting monitor. As he walks away, the man says that Smart Brain will send the manual with the extra benefits. Alone, the young man wonders what privileges the instructor was talking about. Sometime later, he finally arrives at the dormitory building to find his room. At the front desk, a young woman explains that the doors lock at 7 p.m. and staying out late will cost him credits. Suddenly, the receptionist seems to notice something and gets a curious look on her face. She gets excited seeing that he's the monitor, but the young man says he was forced to take the position. The upperclassman pulls him over to get his supplies, and he finds her change in attitude strange. The young woman then hands him the school uniform and explains that green is for the academy's freshmen. She shows him his exclusive room and reveals that the other freshmen are in double rooms. The girl hands him a golden ID card to use for access and purchases. The upperclassman then introduces herself as Zhang Tingting and tells him to ask if he needs anything. She says goodbye with a wave and reminds the young man to choose his courses for the semester wisely. Alone, he thinks about how the young woman's attitude changed and connects it to the privileges of his position. In his room, he decides he needs to handle the course selection issue first. With his eyes closed, he accesses the system to open the course selection table. A huge screen appears with a giant list of subjects, and he's shocked by the sheer number of them. He needs to choose one combat subject and 3 secondary ones, but he calms down because he has his talent. The young man thinks that his stats are too low, and he needs to take advantage of his learning efficiency. He then chooses basic swordsmanship for its versatility and meditation to improve his mental power. With that, he confirms his course selection, knowing that in this place, strength is everything. The next day, he's already on the training field for his basic swordsmanship class. With all his might, he strikes a wooden post and receives swordsmanship experience points. His talent helps him understand that the power comes from his waist, not his wrist, doubling his efficiency. By understanding the key points, his movements become even faster and more efficient. His swordsmanship rises to level 3, and his strength increases along with the skill. Meanwhile, another student falls to the ground, completely exhausted and with no strength to continue. One of the upperclassmen complains that this year's freshmen have an even worse foundation than he imagined. Then a substitute instructor announces that no one leaves the class until they reach level 3 in swordsmanship. In despair, one of the students cries and regrets choosing the class with that woman. Another student complains that it takes hours to level up and that they aren't superhuman. Our hero then gets the attention of the upperclassman, Cheng Na, who looks at him with disdain. He says he's already reached level 3 and asks if he can leave for his next class, meditation. The instructor looks at him with a smirk, not believing what she just heard. She then confronts him and asks if he's kidding her, since he's only been training for a very short time.